watched it.
Welcome to the ESR GT2 Championship from Paul Ricard. There you see the grid before you with pole sitter Mike Stockmill leading the way for the Cadillac team, all the way down to the BMW of Dennis Meichner. There's also one car who did not post a lap time, so we have 19 in the grid. Although, we are going to
That would be Mr. DeRoche.
That would be Mr. Richard DeRoche, who is having problems with his connection. With me on commentary, it is Byron Derksen.
Nope, wrong.
And Travis, the God of Anger, Wallace.
We're here again. Do the time warp.
Yay!
The time warp again. Yeah, they already did commentary on this, but we're trying to bring a more professional angle.
Nerd.
Which is like the first time I have ever been described as professional in my life.
Nerd.
Yeah, we glossed over the racing last time. Talked about everything else.
Well, it's because everything else is very important.
So we do have a couple of storylines heading into this race that are notable to look at. This track was originally supposed to be a different track. It was going to be Paul Ricard, the very straight line oriented one. We decided that there was some BOP issues with that, with the Corvettes and Cadillacs specifically getting a considerable advantage due to their straight line speed. And we've kind of created an opposite BOP problem because we went to this more chicane-heavy Paul Ricard circuit, the 1C2V solution. Paul Ricard, terrible names for their layouts, by the way. And the race is about to get going. There it is. It's going to get going, and we have this camera over the hill, so we can't see Jack until they come over the hill. There we go.
Come up around the hill.
What I was getting at is that the Roughs, the BMWs, and the P45s can probably do this race under one load of gas. They do not have to pit. Whereas the Caddies and the Corvettes probably do have to pit. So we're going to have to keep an eye on who's going to try and run the gambit of going all the way without a pit stop.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Patrick Stewart's Day.
Yes, it is St. Paddy's Day. Off to the lead early on, it is Mike Stockmill leading the way from the BMWs of Martin Edmonds, Jorgen Walby, Sean Kinney, Eric Friesen, Philip Pihet, Darcy Parkinson, returning Darcy Parkinson. The syndrome is back, Byron.
I thought we had shaken the affliction, and yet here it is.
We also have Andy Blade, or John Spriggs, Andy Blade, and Division 3 driver, Academy driver, Travis's boy, Josiah Jerome in 10th place.
Jambalaya Jerome.
No comment from Mr. Travis Wallace.
He frequently has no comment.
He has no comment about his prodigy.
None at all.
I keep forgetting to hit my daggone push to talk. That's good. I'm liking this thing.
Anyways, so if you're running hard tires at the start of the race, there is a theoretical ability to go the entire distance without pitting. So I can say that Jorgen Walby, going to pit, started on softs. The softs will not last. You'll actually have a hard time getting the softs to the midway point, so it'll be interesting how that works out. I guess, Travis, here's the question I pose to you, as our expert racer of this panel. Given this situation, if you were in this race, what would your game plan have been, knowing that 90 liters, aka a full tank of gas, may, with some fuel saving, be enough to get the full race distance?
For this track, I probably would have worried more about my tires than my fuel. Just based on the simple fact that even the hards here, you use a pretty good bit of them. I'm not sure, did anybody change? Nobody changed the hards when they did the pit stop for fuel, right?
I believe there are a number of people who swapped hards for softs at the pit stop.
Oh, see, now that's interesting. I don't know, man. I would have probably went with the hard tires and just a little splash of fuel at the end and not change the tires.
Well, here's the deal on the matter. Now, mind you, these calculations are purely my own and based on the Cadillac plus my driving. So it may not have been universal, and it may have been considerably different for other people. However, I figured it out that I was saving about 1.5 seconds per lap running softs over the hards. That was the performance delta between the two. And the pit stop was going to take an additional, what did it work out to? An additional 8 seconds. So if I could run, say...
What's that in parsecs?
What's that in parsecs? If I could run more than 4 laps on the softs, it would become worth it to change the tires. That was my calculations, and I do stand by them, as obviously I'm one of those who went on the softs. Because the hards, I had dropped down to about the 2-minute 12, 2-minute 13s by the time we got around to when I was thinking about a pit stop. Because I realized my fuel... Well, kind of ironically, my fuel would have made it to the end, but I don't think I would have been in a good position if I had tried it. As Darcy Parkinson makes a move there on Felipe Ferreira for 6th place. So I think that with the performance difference over this long of a lap, if you pit early enough, you can make the softs pay for themselves and just draw pace time. Of course, it depends on who you get caught behind. And if you could make easy work of them or not. Because there were some people on the hards who were, shall we say, unpredictable when coming up to them.
Yeah, we're going to ask about penalties later. It's going to be a thing.
Okay.
So I expect a full report on bad behavior.
The official penalties have not yet been released. The marshals are still debating their specifics, but I can tell you who is facing investigation.
Well, I'm not surprised they have not been released based on admin abuse and definite nepotism.
Well, sir, the admins here at ESR are held to the same standards as everybody else, and I will be throwing the book at Martin.
You had mentioned something about making easy work. If you want to see light work, you're going to see it. You're going to see it real good later. Oh my goodness.
Darcy coming up the
foreshadowing.
Darcy on the charge as he takes Sean Kenny for 5th position. So the red and black BMW is charging through the field at the hands of the Syndrome, Darcy Parkinson. He's been absent for a little bit. And we welcome him back to the grid. But the man who is pulling away from everybody is Mike Stockmill, who may have been in a perfect position there. We could see that he was running the soft tires, which means he intends to have a pit stop and go for it. He's got the hard tires of Martin Edmonds holding everybody else up. Eric Friesen has taken 3rd off of Jorgen Walby. So the positioning here could not work out better for him. Eric and Martin banging some doors there for 2nd place.
You know, being able to see it on this version of it, where it shows you the tire compounds that everybody's running, I'm surprised that this many people were on softs at the start. The way they were racing, it looked like everybody was on hards. I guess maybe it was just because the car in the front was on hards.
Yeah.
They were slowing up this little group here.
Eric Friesen going through on Martin Edmonds. Martin is on the hards. Those who know Martin are aware that him using softs at any time is an unlikely case because he makes tire soup.
Yeah, we really didn't doubt that at all when we were watching it the first time. If anybody would like a more a less nerdy approach, there's a live commentary that Travis and I did. But apparently Travis is a diva and wants perfection, so we're doing it again.
And it's perfection. Sean Kenny has lost 6th place to Felipe Ferreira in the background, a battle of 2 of your favorites, Byron.
Correct. Joe Racer and Dennis Meiser.
I mean, Joe Racer's a good guy.
I heard that. Mostly from him, but I heard that.
No complaints about Mr. Joe Racer. And Dennis Meissner, after some early run-ins with him, I've come to appreciate his company on the battlefield. Lachlan Nichols slipping back there in the Cadillac. Oh, and going forward again, and going backwards again. So there's some carnage going on near the back of the pack.
And we were actually watching, I don't know if you watched or listened to the original commentary track, but we were actually paying attention to you in particular. That is unconscionable, and Martin Edmonds definitely going to jail for that.
Martin Edmonds and Eric Friesen very off the track there. Didn't get a great look from this particular viewpoint, but I know that incident is, in fact, under investigation.
Yeah, that is correct. I believe Martin will go to jail, 20 years, no poutine, and probably no pate.
To answer your earlier question, or earlier some supposition, I did watch your guys' recording.
Hooray!
I was laughing my ass off. Excellent. I did note that you paid particular attention to my progress or lack thereof through the game.
Hey, we were talking, like, you were all the way up to 13th at one point. We were going in.
That was really just due to pit stops. As I started the race on the hards and was thinking about going without a pit stop because I had managed to do it in 2 practice races. And ironically, I would have been able to do it in this particular race. I had more fuel left at the end than what I put in at my pit stop, so gas would have done it. That being said, the tires, as Travis alluded to earlier, would have been pretty much useless.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You need to switch over to them studded winter tires to get an extra level of durability.
Darcy Parkinson up on the podium, challenging Jorgen Walby for King of the BMWs. And further back, it is Lachlan Nichols in a fight with Mr. Dennis Meissner in his hard tire Sean Cadillac CTS V, I believe is the model number of this particular Cadillac. If I'm incorrect,
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's beautiful.
This is the GT2 one. There's also a GT3 Cadillac, I believe, which is the VTS, if I'm not mistaken.
Which one's in here? Do they have the ATS in here? The ATS-V?
They do not have the GT3 one in here.
But I'm guessing most of them have STDs.
Probably. Admittedly, I don't think I've actually seen a series that has the GT3 Cadillac in it. So that would probably be why it is absent from the game.
I didn't know they had they had a GT3 version in here. So I'm pretty sure the CTS-V was only a GT2 car, but for the Rally World Challenge, they homologated it.
There is
it's
a different model number.
Spec.
It's not a CTS. It's something else. I think it's a VTS. We'll look it up and put it in the description afterwards, and we can talk about it then. But yeah, there is a GT3 homogenized Cadillac. Not that anyone uses in actual racing.
I'm looking this up right now. I'm intrigued. If it's the ATS-V, I didn't know that was in here. Now I'm excited.
Just look at, well, it's not in the game. Just look up the group GT3 on Wikipedia. You can see the entire list of homogenized cars.
Oh, I thought you meant in the game. Yeah, it's the ATS-VR. That's the new GT3 one. With the they went to the V6 instead of the V8.
Now, mind you, I would assume if that becomes somewhat popular in GT3 series, we would see it in the game because they have one Cadillac. I can't imagine that they have licensing issues like we see with the Lamborghinis and Ferraris.
Yeah, probably not that kind of trouble with Cadillac.
And I imagine we'll also at some point see the Acura NSX added to the game, as they have had Hondas in the past.
Yeah, you can keep that one. Not intrigued.
All I keep thinking about is the DSV Dragunov sniper rifle. I'm wondering if it comes with a 10-round magazine or not. Welcome to Wild Lads Podcast. I will be your host.
Speaking of which, Byron, you know what arrived in the mail today?
The entire country of Bolivia and/or a kilogram of cocaine.
I have some new hoodies. They may or may not be Badlands influence.
Very nice.
They're all sponsorship.
It's nice.
I'm gonna wear one for the race tonight.
Excellent. Make sure to get that sponsorship deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Darcy's closed this gap up again. He was all over the back of Walby there.
Darcy has got definitive pace here. Oh, and he clatters into the side of Mr. Jorgen Walby and puts the Swedish marsupial off the track. Mind you, of course, Paul Ricard, not one where we're going to see a lot of DNS because there's just not a lot to actually hit in terms of barriers. To borrow a phrase that was uttered before the race started by Mr. Andy Blade, there's just nowhere to put someone in the wall here.
Well, I would agree with you if I hadn't seen certain administrators sort of using parts of their cars in ways that I totally approve of, but may or may not be legal in the great state of Pablo Ricardo.
So Darcy is inherited second place, but may be facing some level of penalty for the manner in which he took it. Felipe Fejea, Sean Kenny, Eric Friesen's come back to 5th place. John Spriggs, he's got Martin Edmonds coming up behind him. Jorgen Walby is recovered to 8th place. Josiah Jerome is up to 8th place. Travis, your thoughts?
Very
Ray?
well put. Nice execution. You're doing terrific.
Oh
And
yes.
rounding
From what I've seen, man, he's doing a good job. He's just running his line and being consistent. He's not taking any risks, and it's paying off for him.
I understand there was some Academy racing last night. Would you care to comment on any of the results of which?
Well, I came in a little bit late. I think you guys had already gotten started, but just from the time that I was there, I did notice that pretty much all of the Academy drivers that were in there had taken a big chunk out of their times, and were really putting up some good times on the practice and the qualifying board.
Excellent. And rounding off the top 10, that was what I was going with. Luciano Chazo in the one of the two Corvettes on the track is in 10th position. His teammate Joe Racer down at the back of the pack in 18th. Just promoted to 17th, as it looks like Dennis Meichner has had an off.
And the great Michael McGuggenheim is all the way up to 15th from 17th because he is obviously the superior man.
I do not feel superior about this drive, but thank you for the compliment. Martin Edmonds still up on the back of John Spriggs, unable to make a move. Have we seen what tires Spriggs is running? Are they softs or are they hards?
I don't remember. I'm going to go with probably one or the other.
Does have to be one or the other.
Make a prediction. What's your prediction?
I'm guessing hards due to the fact that Martin is all over his back end with hards, and the softs should not have lost the best of their performance yet. They should have 4 minutes maybe left before the hards should be able to pace with them. And I respect John Spriggs as a quality and very fast racer, so I imagine he'd be pulling away if he's on the softs.
I hear that he is very attractive.
I have not heard those rumors, but
Well, let's start one now.
We will keep them going, yeah.
I heard that he's got an exotic scar from a duel he got in Tunisia, and may or may not own several exotic pets.
I'm going to go with the Komodo Dragon. It's clearly what he's got to own.
Yeah, well, he probably rides that to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's his mode of transportation.
It's the way I would use it.
He's a big fan of the Aussie-themed Warhammer army they came out with a while ago, and then quickly stopped purchasing the models, which was kind of annoying.
It does sound. Did they have instead of Thunder Wolves? Did they have like Thunder Boomers?
They
like
had
big
giant kangaroo cavalry.
Yes, bitch. Did they ride in the pouches?
Yes, they did.
Yes, bitch.
The archers rode in the pouches. The knights rode on their back.
That's tremendous. I enjoy that a great deal.
There was a giant kimono dragon that you could purchase. It was a massive creature that had some impressive stat line. Very tough.
Reminds me of me.
Actually had a ranged attack, which was very cool because it could breathe fire.
I'm so lost right now.
The deal is that Warhammer is a tabletop game, of course, and like a couple years ago, they decided that they wanted to give out like special edition models, basically, that you could buy. And they were Australian themed. They were the army of the Shadow Isles, which is basically where Australia is on the world map. And it was like kangaroo cavalry and like all these like tremendously stereotypical Australian things. And it was awesome.
But did they have shrimps?
Cool.
Did they have what there, Byron?
Did they have shrimps to grill?
They did have shrimps.
This pleases Zulthar.
They also had a giant unit that was basically this grill that grilled enemy corpses. So that was the Barbie, I assume.
One would assume. But they were very, very, very susceptible to stings from underneath. Too soon?
Too soon. Jorgen Walby has now joined this fight between John Spriggs and Martin Edmonds. We know that he's got to be chafing into this because he is on the softs. We've seen that. We don't know about Spriggs' tire choice. We know Martin is on the hards. Now, gentlemen, the thoughts here. We know that the BMW is probably the most likely car to make it on 0 stops. Can Martin Edmonds make it on 0 stops?
Spoiler alert! No. Although, you know, in a perfect world, maybe. But based on Martin driving like an asshole, probably not tonight.
Felipe Fea having a very solid run there in third place. Big ups to the Division 2 driver.
Big old F squared.
And in the meantime, Lachlan Nichols has found his way back into 12th position, so he's charging back through the grid for Cadillac.
Lol Chen and the Masters
Martin
of the Universe.
Edmonds slides very wide there and will lose the spot to Jorgen Walby, dropping back to 8th position on his hard tires. Which should have more life than Walby's softs at this point, but as we have stated in the past, Martin and tire management, I mean, it's a foreign concept to him. You can't really blame him. He was never. There's no French word for it.
That is correct. I believe they call it la tire management, but then they blame the English pig dog you do know it with the bad verbiage and don't like.
It's an English concept. They couldn't possibly embrace it.
It is not croissant. I do not understand. One of these days, he's going to do something horrible to me.
One of these days.
Seems like he has a good sense of humor, but you never know.
He seems to enjoy it. Generally speaking, the entire field has been good sports about your sense of humor.
Excellent.
There is like one or two exceptions, but we will not change for them.
If it is the people I think you're thinking about, then I'm not changing nothing for those people.
Martin down to 8th place, having run in second for a reasonable chunk of the early race, but the hard tires should be coming into their own now. It looks like Luciano Echazo has put a wheel wrong and has slipped behind both Josiah Jerome and Andy Blade. Andy Blade fighting for 9th place, so the red Ferrari is making a run here.
I mean, if you were going to be on the side of a Blade, behind it is the best way to be.
That's not wrong. Definitely don't want to be on the edge.
No, not on the point. So the stripies there on the side of the track, we've been over this before. They don't add extra grip or anything, but they provide like less drag, I believe is how that works.
They will upset the balance of the car with their elevatedness and the fact that they're kind of very bumpy. The game graphics don't really translate that, but they're very, very bumpy. You want to avoid them for the most part. Now, the exception is sometimes you run out a little bit wide on them, so you can carry a bit more speed through turns. But it's not necessarily that they're giving you more speed, it's just you brake less, therefore you carry more speed.
Oh, okay. See, I was a little confused because playing arcade racing games and stuff, things that look all stripy and whatnot often aid in the racing. But this being a real world application, was pretty sure that wasn't the case.
That is indeed not the case.
But I do see so many people just riding, and these things have got a bevel to them, like those you see right there. I see so many people just doing that all the time. Would it, not behoove them to avoid doing that consistently?
It's basically a risk versus benefit analysis. If you can carry, let's say, an extra 5 kilometers through a turn and take a little bit of curb, that works for you. But obviously, you can also spin out. I think we may see an example of that from Lachlan Nichols during this race, actually. I don't know if he gets caught on camera or not. But
could be. Maybe that's who I saw.
He takes a lot of curb and winds up completely losing the back end and spinning out.
There is a
Eric
certain
Friesen
gentleman.
is spun around. I don't know what happened to Mr. Friesen, but he has dropped the hammer for sure and was sideways in that corner. Martin Edmonds has gone through, and it looks like he's rejoined in 8th position, so another rough one for Eric Friesen, who could be having a really good race today if he just could avoid trouble more.
Well, I mean, you live by the crayon vomit, you die by the Technicolor dawn. It's just kind of, how that goes.
In the meantime, in front of Martin Edmonds, there is a heavy fight going on here as Jorgen Walby wants to get around John Spriggs, and it appears that he has to move into 5th place. The issue, of course, is their cars are identical except for the number, so it's hard to tell which one is which.
Racism.
It's not racism. If anything, it's carism.
Oh. Appearanceism.
And now
Wallace
Martin wants to get around.
Wally's having a good run back through the field after the incident early, all the way back up to 5th already.
Indeed, and I think Sean Kenny might be.
There is Mr. Spriggs on the hards right there. It says right
Mr. Spriggs takes 5th place back from Jorgen Walby, so we gave him a little bit of the caster's curse, and now Martin Edmonds is looking to go on the attack once again.
there. Launch the torpedo.
Launch the beef torpedo. Wait, that's Darcy Parkinson's deal.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure his is more of a poutine torpedo.
Not really sure a poutine torpedo would really work all that well.
The pate torpedo. Le foie gras harpoon.
Martin has dropped back a little bit, and Jorgen's back on the attack. So Jorgen's on the softs, which should be past their best before point at this point. If you get to the halfway point of the race without the softs being pretty much mush, you've done a pretty good job. We'll see if he can. We'll see if he can hang in there and get to a pit stop and take advantage of that.
So you were talking earlier about people switching over to the softs. Was that a popular choice, I'm assuming? Since apparently if it only takes 8 seconds, I'm guessing the tires and the fuel go at the same time in these cars?
No. So the deal was, when I was working out the differences at pit stop, I did a pit stop with just fuel, did a pit stop with just front tires, because that would be what I would do if I was going to go hards the whole race. And then a pit stop with 4 new tires. And that was basically the deltas between the two options. Because for me, in the Cadillac, which has high tire degradation, the hards were going to be a considerable problem. When I raced the hards for the entire race, when I was trying to do the fuel without doing a pit stop, I was down to 2 minute 16 lap times, as opposed to what I started at, which was 2 minute 10s. So we're talking a drop off of 6 seconds. So the idea of the Cadillac, I want to be specific here, the Cadillac, going the full distance without a pit stop, then I would try and make the hards last. But if I was going to pit, there was always going to be a tire component. And the question was, do I do just a new set of front hards, or do I do the full soft set? Because you cannot do softs on the front and hards on the rear. It just, the game doesn't allow for it. Otherwise,
even if it did, that would be a tough one to handle.
I'd be someone who'd be willing to risk it. Not in an official race, but I definitely would want to try it. But yeah, the difference between taking 2 front hards or 4 new softs was 8 seconds. So looking at the performance delta between a lap on softs and a lap on hards being about 1.5 seconds, if you could make the pit stop with, say, 10 laps to go, it was pretty advantageous for you to make that happen and do the full tire swap. It also, mind you, it does depend who you come out behind and track position and such, but as I was in pretty much last place when I decided to pit, track position wasn't really a concern.
Yeah, hearing that the fall off from the hards was that bad, then yeah, if you were going to switch the fronts, it probably would be better to go ahead and just switch them all to soft.
Now, mind you, you could probably get better than that again. I'm not a great driver. I'm sure someone else in a Cadillac could make better times than that. But the drop-off was pretty pronounced when you could run 209s with the softs with me. And that would obviously be faster if you're, for example, like Stoppel was running 205s with the softs. I think it becomes pretty advantageous at that point to do the tire switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I don't know if that was the case for the knockoff Ferraris, the knockoff Porsches, or the BMWs, who are historically much kinder to their tires than the Cadillac. But that was my read on the situation based on the car I was driving. Jorgen Walby has made his pit stop by the looks of it and has dropped back to 17th position. I think we've lost Dennis Meissner as a competitive car. He's some 120 seconds behind. Looks like he's still running, maybe, but not really a factor in the race at this point.
That's what he gets for just disillusioning me about the great nation of Daneland and all the things that I thought were awesome about it. And he's like, no, we don't do that here. So that's karma. That's karma for you.
That's how you get rid of the Byron driver boost.
No zippers for you. Only blue shells.
Only blue shell. John Spriggs going on the attack against Sean Kenny, who may want to start thinking about a pit stop just because it looks like his lap times are starting to drop off. He started the race on the softs, of course. The 2 cars behind him are on the hards. So at this point, it may behoove him to ponder a pit stop. And speaking of pit stop, Luciano Ichazo in the pit lane from 10th place.
Luciano. I'm making the hand motion when I'm saying that, by the way. I think that's implied.
It was implied. It was heavily implied.
Lucky Luciano.
In the meantime, your boy, my boy, everyone's boy, Andy Blade up into 8th place.
I hardly believe that's possible, and yet I see it with my own brain.
Although, it looks like he's kind of dropped off the pace, because he was fighting with Josiah Jerome not that long ago, and is now 6 seconds adrift.
No one fights with Josiah and lives.
That's true. He learns from Byron, or from the Travis Wallace school of how to...
Put him in the wall.
How to get people to bump. Jesse Hampton up on the back of Lachlan Nichols, who I believe lost control of the car there, and Jesse says, "Thank you. I will accept the 9th place." Now, of course,
it's hard to see what happened from that angle. Looked like looked like he was on the line and just lost it.
I think that was where he picked up a bit of the curb that I was talking about with Byron earlier and lost control of the car.
Ah, yeah, that'll do it.
He did.
Paul Ricard, of course, is in a Formula One circuit once again. Produced a pretty good race last season. And what are your thoughts on the modernized Paul Ricard circuit there, Travis? Is it one that intrigues you and makes you want to race, or is it one of those ones you kind of want to stay away from?
I used to avoid it. I never cared for this circuit. And then whenever it come out in one of the builds in ACC, I think it was the second one, so I was still playing that a lot.
Just to interject, the race leader Mike Stockmill is in the pit lane, so we've had a change for the lead. Felipe Fajea now up front.
Yeah, you remember I foreshadowed somebody doing some easy light work there? Yeah, that's coming up.
Speaking of which, there is Stockmill coming out of the pit lane with Andy Blade. By the way, the pit lane exit here, fucking terrible.
Yeah, it shoots you right back out.
Yeah, it shoots you right back out into a relatively high-speed turn. By the way, Dennis Meichner with a drive-through penalty for track limits abuse. That would be the other thing I don't like about this track. The track limits are very inconsistent. Like, if you want me to put no wheels off the track, that's fine. But you should probably do that at every corner instead of, like, specific corners, if you know what I mean. Like, if we stay with this battle for a while, we're heading up to the chicane that's up there to break up the big, long straightaway. And we're coming up to it now, and they'll be braking to go through it here with Mike Stockmill and Andy Blade here. This one here. And the exit on this, like that first corner curb, you can cut hard. You can have like 3 wheels off, and it doesn't say shit. But the exit, you put 1 wheel off, and it's like, yeah, no, that's illegal. No, that's a track cut. What? Bullshit. So there was a lot of track cutting going on here that was not, to be honest, in my opinion, not really fair use of track. But continue with your description of Paul Ricard there, Travis. You were saying that it had come in one of the Assetto Corsa Competizione builds, and it kind of turned your mind around.
Yeah, that was really the first time that I had spent. I mean, I think at that point there was only 2 tracks released, so I spent a lot of time at it, and I really started to enjoy it. But I'm not a huge fan of the circuit itself. It's just not my style. It's very flat. The long straight into a tight corner into a long straight, I'm not really a fan of. But it is cool to see a track this versatile. I mean, what does this place have? 162 layouts or something?
Yeah.
I think is how many courses you can make out of it. It's insane. I mean, it'd be a great spot for, many different kinds of motorsports. But as far as like the F1 layout and stuff like that, I don't know. I'm not a, and that's how a lot of the F1 tracks have gone. It's all long straights and tight corners and flat. The tracks have no, life anymore.
Well, admittedly, Paul Ricard is actually a rather old track. People are a little bit more aware of it now because it's starting to attract some big events. Whereas for the longest time, of course, Magny-Cours was the place to go if you were in France, or the street course at Pau. And Paul Ricard's kind of become their premier track once again. Hosted F1 back in, I believe, the 80s. And originally it was conceived as a test track for Renault and I think Peugeot. And that is why there are so many different configurations to the circuit, is they wanted to be able to test basically anything. And that is why there is, as you said, 100 plus layouts to this damn circuit. With terrible names like Solution 1CV2 and stuff like that.
Oh, they should get me in charge of naming stuff.
That makes
They'd have to write it down.
Makes it very difficult to remember what actual format. By the way, just to, it's pit assisted, but Division 3 driver Josiah Jerome is in 5th position, only about 5 seconds behind Martin Edmonds, who's battling here for 3rd place. So, a superb race from Mr. Josiah.
He's about to be in 6th place.
He is, taught him everything he knows.
He's got Mr. Mike Stockmill up on his bumper.
He is now in 6th place because he's within a second of Mike Stockman. You might as well just stop.
Jorgen Walby on his charge back through the field, taking 10th place off of the Cadillac of Lachlan Nichols. I do not believe Lachlan is pitted yet. We know Jorgen was one of the early pitters and is working his way back through the grid. I think that was maybe a bit of a tactical error by him because he put himself behind a lot of slower traffic. I wonder if that's going to end up costing him a position or two in the overall race count. Jesse Hampton overtaking Andy Blade, though it does appear that Andy Blade is in the pit lane as he is dropping like a stone.
The late great Mike McGrackenfield, currently up to 14th place.
Indeed, soon to be 13th, I do believe. I believe I will overtake Mr. Andy Blade in the pit lane.
That seems likely because Andy is very slow in the pit lane.
There we go, 13th place.
Huzzah! Hey, Mike's
we're on board.
5th.
We are riding on board with Mr. Mike McGracken.
God, did you see that line? So crisp.
It was not crisp in any way. This Cadillac is a bit of a handful through this twisting 3rd sector.
Have you not nicknamed it the Grey Knight yet?
Pardon me, this is the 1st sector. So the twisting 3rd sector and the twisting 1st sector, both a bit painful. Yeah, I did name it the Grey Knight, actually.
Excellent.
I've also pet named it Jurgen after the first official Grey Knight chapter master.
Well played.
Again, I am so lost.
We're dipping into nerd stuff.
Nerd. Y'all need to look in on your Warhammer 40k lore.
It is an amazingly for a tabletop game. It has an amazing lore to be honest.
Lore better than tabletop.
Well, it depends on your habits. You don't like tabletop games, obviously.
I prefer table bottom games.
Yeah, if it's not racing or Star Trek, I'm not gonna have a clue what y'all are talking about.
Well, picture Star Trek on fucking copious amounts of PCP.
Pretty much.
And there's no good guys.
There are no good guys. No, they're not.
Who are the good guys in Warhammer 40k? We don't do that here.
Yeah. Every time someone asks me that, it's like, the humans are the good guys, right?
No.
No.
They're pricks.
No. They're the closest thing you've got to good guys, but no. In the meantime, Jorgen Walby has picked up another spot, passing Jesse Hampton for 8th position. He is now about 10 seconds behind Darcy Parkinson, who is a guy he's actually racing, I would say, because Darcy and him are both pitted are theoretically good to go to the end. By the way, in the pit lane, we have Mike McGracken, Cadillac.
May I just say that Felipe Fierro is clearly 18 laps ahead of everybody right now.
Absolutely. All hail the flying lizard, despite the fact that graphic would display otherwise.
Correct.
He's got Sean Kenny on his tail, John Spriggs, Martin Edmonds, and, I mean, Case in point, the pace of Mike Stockmill here, may I point out. He's made a pit stop. The guys ahead of him have not.
Yeah, and we were speculating the first time we were watching, like, is he just going to wait for them to go into the pit or not? And then he starts doing this.
I mean, it would not be a bad idea to just let them pit and get out of the way. But of course, we did have that whole thing of, like, are they going to pit? Because a lot of people were talking about going the zero pit stop route and just stretching the tires.
Stockmill on the soft tires now. I believe he was on the hards originally, although he was so far in front we never got to see.
He has done a double soft run.
Oh, okay.
And he's getting a little physical with Mr. Martin Evans, saying, Mr. Martin, I'd like you to get out of my way. Cause of Mike Stockmill's parents' death got in his way.
Yeah, if you watch some really good boxing, you'll see some head movement and some fakes and all that kind of good stuff. Especially if you're watching some Muhammad Ali. This is pretty much what this is right here.
Pretty much. He dives down the inside of John Spriggs and says, "Thank you, I will take the podium before you guys even pit."
Matter of fact, I think he gets, not to spoil anything, and I might be wrong, but I think he gets all the way out in front before any of them pit at all anyway.
Yeah. If I were him, now, again, I was privy to the pre-race chat that was just going in on the chat there. I would definitely have wanted to get past Martin and John, both of whom were talking about possibly going without a pit stop. But Sean Kenny I wouldn't have been terribly worried about because he started on softs and definitely has to pit. But anyways, he puts it through on him anyways, and into second he goes.
Yeah.
Travis, you may want to just get this on a recording for, like, an academy briefing of, like, how to cut through traffic like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, he definitely made it look easy. Byron mentioned it, but yeah, we were talking once he caught the field.
Well, there we go, going for the lead.
No problem.
Thank you and goodbye.
And I was saying, it's one thing to catch, but especially when you catch a pack of cars like this, it's hard to navigate through it. But I think he just passed all of them in one lap.
Well,
I remember you started talking about it just as he was making his move at the back of this pack, and then by the time really we had decided that maybe he's probably he's good. He's all right. He's probably got this.
That's what I was talking about earlier with the drop off of the tires. I think that was right there is an idea of it. Just there's no real grip at this point on any of these cars.
We just got to add more weight.
You're not actually all that wrong.
Physics.
Some of the GT cars do handle better with a full tank of gas.
Yeah, I can imagine that roof there is one of them. Having the fuel tank up front. Have some tremendous understeer on an empty tank.
Indeed, but Felipe's making it work, still in second place ahead of Sean Kenny. Now, his concern, of course, is that the cars in fourth and fifth might not have to pit. They might be able to go on the distance, and we were talking about this. That was the advantage of being a BMW in this race, is that there was a good chance that you could make it on 90 meters, as Darcy Parkinson looking to go around the outside of Josiah Jerome.
Down with the syndrome.
Syndrome versus Double J. Where are the pictures of Spider-Man?
Syndrome of a down.
There you go. Can't make it through yet. I suspect this is only a matter of time, though. Darcy's on relatively fresh tires. Josiah is on... a little bit of a hip check there.
Delightful. Hey! Gentlemen.
And it looks like Darcy has indeed gotten the deal. And look at the gap that Mike Stockmill is already pulling at the front of the pack.
It's almost like it's the beginning of the race all over again.
It's at this point, it's just like you just can't beat that. Like how demoralizing would that be for you, Travis?
Well, I would have mixed feelings about it. Granted, I would be in a Cadillac, but to see a Cadillac kicking ass in this manner makes me happy. If I was in the race, I would be angry that mine would not go that fast.
You just got to put more cocaine in the tank.
I think he's got like a DRS switch or something hooked up in there.
The other two
Something
Cadillacs not having a great day down in 15th and 17th. In the meantime, it looks like Dennis Meissner has exited the race. Looks like he's no longer moving, no longer doing anything there. We haven't done a recap of the top 10, but look at that BMW line there. Jesus.
I was just about to say, with so many BMWs in the race, I am surprised that, for one, there's a mixed bag in the top 3, and for 2, there's no BMWs in the top 3 at the moment.
None. It's a P4, a Rough, and a Caddy. And the Caddy is definitely firmly entrenched in there. Don't know about Felipe and Sean, as I have stated, that they need to pit. They're soft tires. Their softs will probably explode before the end of the race. Whereas the 2 BMWs behind them are on hards, but have not managed to make their way around yet. And
I am impressed they've managed to make the soft tires last this long into the run. I figured they would be pitting around the 30-35 minute mark.
Yeah, they are absolutely doing a fantastic job. They've gotten nearly 45 minutes out of these softs. Oh, Sean Kenny's on hards now. Or was he always on hards? I don't know why I thought he was on softs.
I'm always on hard.
All right, I may need to rephrase part of that. Sean Kenny may be trying to go without a pit stop. Don't know about Felipe. I'm pretty sure Felipe was on the soft, so this would just continue to make the Felipe's run here that much more impressive, that he's managed to hold up this train on tires that at this point have got to be blinking angrily at him.
Is there a switch you can, is there a setting you can pull just to have your headlights do the permanent strobe light thing?
No. You'd have to keep pressing the button.
That seems like a button I would be pressing. I would be
I do that sometimes. You just hold it down, they just flash.
Oh, so you just like grab a couple of fucking big coins and tape them to the key.
That's one way to do it.
Constant headlights.
Yep. That'd be my move.
Alright, so I want to get a look at the tires of Felipe Fejea to confirm my suspicion. I was pretty sure he was on softs.
Let me get a Pikachu.
Yes. Let me give a shocking revelation.
Girl, you like Pokemon? Let me get a Pikachu. The Love Master.
So, Felipe Fejea is the leader in Division 2. Division 3's leader is still Josiah Jerome, who's not pitted yet. So there is still a pit stop for him in the future. Or, as he is the man who discovered that you could do this without a pit stop, he could be going the distance. Could be a look at what Felipe Fejea is running for tires.
Well,
are they hards or are they softs?
That's again one of the things that I find frustrating about the replay or the spectator mode is you never get to see anything about the guy up front. Like, I understand that you can just look at the standings, and you know the guy ahead of Sean Kenny, clearly Felipe Fejea. But if you want to see what's going on, you can't. It's never going to cut to the guy up front. It would be nice to have just a quick, brief little glimpse here and there.
That is something that we have communicated, and hopefully will become a thing in the near future. We hope.
It's not a big gripe, but from this kind of perspective, especially when you want little details like that, you're just not going to get them. Yep. So I mean, the compromise is, why don't we propose that maybe they put the icon of the tires next to the name on the...
That indeed was my proposal.
Yeah. I mean, it's great where it is.
I think that would help immensely. I guess the tactical question here for you, Travis, is if you're one of these cars behind Felipe, when do you start pondering a pit stop? Or are you just at this point absolutely committed to trying to go without a pit stop?
I don't know. I think that would be a situational thing. If you, I mean, you're holding pace with them. So you know if you pit and you get in your box and out of your box clean, that you're at least still going to be with them. And then you can use the last few laps to try to really work the car. It looks like at this point now they're going side by side. I was going to say it looks like the two BMWs in the back are just biding their time. But yeah, if you think you can make it on fuel, I would just go ahead and commit to trying to stretch it. A little bit of contact.
A little bit of BMW on BMW crime there.
I would go ahead and commit to stretching it out, and that way, even if the two in front of you do go in the pits, you know that's 2 spots you're going to gain. So maybe do a little bit of fuel saving here. and try to stretch it.
Indeed, that's definitely one way to look at it. And they don't really have the gap you need because Darcy Parkinson is pretty much up on these guys now. But that's the thing that I'm also going on here is that you're watching the gap to Darcy close and close and close, and you know that he's coming on strong. He's got those fresh tires. He might pull a Mike Stockmill here and go through, and you've seen Mike Stockmill do that. At what point do the concerns of just losing ground that regard come into play?
Well, the way that I would look at it, if I was riding in either the fourth or the fifth position at this point, and this is of course assuming that I've worked it out and I know that my fuel's going to last. I would stay out, gain the 2, and then you still have a chance of being able to defend. I mean, Darcy's got not too much ground, but still a good amount of ground to cover. It's going to take him a few minutes to get there. Take a couple more laps out of the race here. And at that point, all you got to do is defend. Just run a nice defensive line and make it hard to pass.
I suppose also the factor here is that there's no one really coming behind Darcy. Josiah Jerome is trying to do the same strategy down in 7th place. And then Jorgen Walby, I think, is just too far back.
Yeah, I mean, if worse comes to worse, you're going to gain 2 spots and lose 1. So, I mean, really, you're still overall gaining a spot. That's points that you wouldn't have got if you had gone into the pits, because Darcy's going to come by you either way at that point.
We do know that Sean Kenny might be trying to do the no pit stop deal as well. He is on hards. We thought he was on softs for the longest time, but they are hard. And he's looking for a way around Felipe. We still don't know what Felipe is running. Darcy is now up on the back of this and saying, "I would like a podium, please. My return is not complete. I have a fever. The only cure is more podium."
Well, tough luck, because he's going to run them all into the wall.
Well, he's overtaken John Spriggs for 5th place.
5th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. My cat demands attention, apparently. Meow.
Got a good run here, too.
And Martin Edmonds next up on the hit list of Darcy Parkinson. Sean Kenny looking to make a move on Felipe Fajea as well. I think Darcy's getting
frequency, Kenneth.
Yep, Darcy up to 4th. It's a shame that Darcy qualified a little bit further back and wasn't really able to get up with Mike Stockmill, because I think if there is a guy in this grid today that could match him for pace, it is the Syndrome.
Ooh,
A little bit of 3 wide going there. Sean Kenny briefly getting 2nd place off of Felipe, but Felipe managing to get the better line. And Darcy trying to go for 3rd. A little bit of bump and grind. And Darcy is through into 2nd place for now. Felipe Fajea back down to 4th. So we know that the top 2 are now good to go to the end. Martin Edmonds also getting past Felipe. So Felipe, I think, he died for the pit lane?
I dove once.
Nope, he's still there. Still trying to run side by side with John Spriggs, but I don't think that's going to work out for him.
Yeah, looks like his momentum got killed there in that last sector. He had nothing on the straightaway. Lost all those spots.
He slid very, very wide there. May have had a little bit of contact as well. Jorgen Walby still has not found a way past Josiah Jerome. Despite having a similar advantage to what we saw with Stockmill and Parkinson, he's on, well, I guess his softs are actually not that new at this point, because of course he was a very early pit stopper, so those softs are probably also a bit best before, or past their best before date.
Can't pit stop me now, having such a good race. Driving along.
Andy Blade in the top 10.
Unbelievable.
The big train of BMWs has finally been broken up by the charge of Darcy Parkinson. And Walby still looking for a way around. And there he is, up in 7th place, ahead of Josiah Jerome, Travis's boy.
Josiah Jambalaya Jerome. Muy picante.
He's doing quite well, dominating Division 3 right now. Could be going to the end with no pit stop. In fact, at this point, if I may be so bold, I gotta wonder if you've not pitted at this point, I think you're past the point of no return. I think you're stuck at this point, trying to make it to the end with the fuel you got. And if you can't, I think there's not really anything you can do about it.
Ain't no driving with the fuel I got. Ooh.
Yeah, even if you're trying to do those calculations on the fly, about the latest in an hour-long race like this that you want to commit to a strategy would be about 15 minutes to go. It's any later than that, and if you think you can make it and then can't, or if you just are planning on pitting really late, at that point you've already given up too much. Everybody behind you has already caught you again with the fresh tires and all that, and you can't even defend at that point. At least if you pit early, you can defend when you come out of the pits because you'll still be up in front of those guys. But yeah, something this late, I think everybody that hasn't pitted has committed to that strategy.
Felipe Fejea may disagree though. He's in the pit lane.
I was about to make an O.J. Simpson trial joke. If you do not pit, you must commit.
So Felipe Fejea in the pit lane. He has slipped down to 8th place. Or he may have just slipped off track. I'm not sure which, but judging by the gap, I would have either it was a very major incident or he just pitted, and he's got Eric Friesen now in behind him.
I don't think he pit. I think we caught it on my director footage. I think he caught one of the curbs and spun it.
That's a lot of time. He lost more than a half minute. Not too many, only 2 places, but just a lot of track position was lost there by the Flying Lizard car.
Yeah, if I recall, he spun it right after the long straight. He on one of those right-handers, I think he got too much curb, and the car come around on him.
It's a shame for Mr. Felipe Fejea. He was looking at a very solid result for Porsche, a team that has been definitively lacking in results in this particular series. Without the Greek connection that has not been here, of course, for the last couple of races.
The Greek freaks?
Team Freak.
Well, maybe they just didn't pay their internet bill. Not to put too fine a point on it, but Greece seems to have a little bit of an issue with transactions.
We have lost a car. Luciano Ichazo has unfortunately disconnected from the server.
We were wondering what happened to him.
It looked like just a technical issue.
We couldn't remember exactly when he dropped off the race. So.
Sean Kenny is falling like a stone. Is he in the pit lane? Has he realized that perhaps he can't make it on fuel? About to find out. So we're going past the pit lane right now. And if Fejea and company pick up the spot... No, it looks like he just went off the track.
We were talking to him last night. I forgot to even ask.
So, bad luck towards the end of this race for Felipe Fejea and for Sean Kenny. They've dropped out of some pretty solid positions and are now running in 7th and 8th position. And I would say that Fejea is in the danger zone because he's got Eric Friesen and a certain sharp, pointy object trailing him.
Put him in the wall, Andy! I gotta say that Senor Juan Barcadero over there has had a pretty solid-ass race for himself.
Yeah, John Barker having a pretty calm, effective day, running in 11th position. Should be mentioned that Andy Blade is going for the class victory here because it's Fejea that's first in Division 2, and there is Andy Blade. By the way, you just saw John Barker go through your shot there, further back in the track.
Bonjour, Monsieur Juan Barcadero.
I will say that the nice thing about the Paul Ricard circuit is that there's a lot of just interesting getting multiple cars into shots that are not like getting a look at this battle and then like the battle behind it because of how the track is laid out. So that's pretty interesting. Eric Friesen looking to make a move. He's got the fresh tires. Felipe
nope, I
lost
was
it.
wrong. There goes the spin.
Felipe loses control, and that's going to allow both Eric Friesen and Andy Blade through to take.
No.
So he must have
Felipe.
ducked into the pits earlier. He must have just done a splash and kept the same tires.
Well, it's possible he had 2 spins as well. But the amount of time he lost makes me think it was a pit stop. Like,
Yeah.
that was 30 plus seconds. I gotta think he made a pit stop. We can check the log file and see if he pitted, but
You didn't do that ahead of time? I thought you were the super nerd.
I didn't want to be. Wanted to keep some semblance of live commentary here, some semblance of mystery.
Why would you do that? You got like 2/3 of the booth have already watched the whole race.
And the other third raced in it.
Yeah. We could have had all the details. We could have had the world.
All of the world. So in the meantime, Mike Stockmill, Darcy Parkinson running away from it. Martin Edmonds, John Spriggs, 3rd and 4th, top BMWs. They have not pitted all race. Jorgen Walby. We said that he may have too much ground to gain on them. And it's probably true, but he's making them think about it, at least towards the end of this race. Josiah Jerome running in 6th place, yet to pit. Probably won't pit. Sean Kenny might have pitted. Might not have pitted. Eric Friesen, Andy Blade, they did pit. Felipe Fajea might have pitted. John Barker, I probably think is pitted. Jesse Hampton did. Lachlan Nichols did. Cristiano Pinheiro did. Don't know about Joe Racer. I kind of hope he pitted, because if not, his strategy did not really work out for him. And then Mike McGracken running in 16th place. He has pitted for a pair, or a set of soft tires.
Soft.
Can Andy Blade make a move on Eric Friesen? Now, Friesen pitted fairly early on. His tires probably aren't the best. And you can see that with him sliding around there. Andy Blade, one of the later pitters, has a relatively fresh set of tires. The P45 takes care of its tires fairly well. Definitely some opportunity for a move here. That being said, the P45 very lacking in straight line grunt, which does make overtaking a bit of a challenge.
Does it also corner badly?
It corners quite well, actually.
Well, at least it's got one advantage.
It was actually the car I was fastest in during my testing. Josiah Jerome in the pit lane?
I admire the fact that you did not choose the fastest car for yourself just to make sure that everybody else would win and you weren't dominating the podiums every day.
Exactly. That's why I'm not winning.
Exactly.
It's the only reason. Josiah Jerome has picked up a speeding in the pit lane penalty, and I don't think he's going to have enough time to actually serve that penalty, as he went in on like the last lap. Man, that has got to suck. Like, that is a kick to the junk right there, having to abandon your no-stop pit strategy right at the end and picking up a speeding in the pit lane penalty in the process.
Yeah, if I had to guess, some of these guys that were planning on doing it on no stop weren't expecting the pace that Stockmill was setting, so they picked up an extra lap during the race. I think that might have thrown a kink in the plan.
That might have.
So I can't see a reason to stop on the last lap unless it's the extra lap that you didn't plan for, so you're out of fuel.
Mm-hmm. I did try to warn everybody that 29 laps was a distinct possibility.
It's going to be actually 29.75 laps, and you're all going to run out of gas, and nobody wins. Spoiler alert.
I think Mike Stockmill's good on gas. He got it to lap 30.
I mean, even if he isn't good on gas, he could probably coast for the win.
Yeah, he did get it to lap 30, which I think definitely compromised Mr. Josiah Jerome. But I'll tell you who it didn't compromise in terms of strategy. Martin Edmonds and John Spriggs, who are bringing home 3rd and 4th for the BMW boys.
I believe they will be, Martin will probably be downgraded to 19th place because of all the penalties.
Now he'll just lose points. Andy Blade running out of time here to try to make a move on Eric Friesen, Sean Kenny, Jorgen Walby, 5th and 6th. or 6th and 5th, since I said them in the reverse order. And this battle for 7th is on. Felipe Fajea up to 9th. Josiah Jerome in 10th, but facing
Took
a time
defensive
penalty.
line. I might give Andy the run coming to the stripe.
Can Andy get it? Can the
Doesn't
Blade
look like
get it? Doesn't unlikely.
Doesn't look like that car's got enough power, man.
It really does not have enough power. Felipe Fajea, a man who we think tried to do it on one set of tires, and may have had to pit for some fuel, or may have just kind of paid the price for very worn tires. Johnny Barker coming across the line in 11th place, ahead or behind Josiah Jerome, who was disappearing and cloaking like a Klingon bird of prey.
John the Carnival Barker.
Hey, a reference I know.
Hey.
Jesse Hampton across the line in 12th in his distinctive blue Porsche. Lachlan Nichols, 13th in the Cadillac. Here comes Cristiano Pinheiro in 14th position, the Brazilian. And as you can see there, a 90-second penalty was tacked on to Josiah Jerome for not serving the drive-through penalty. That dropped him from 10th position all the way down to 14th.
I mean, if we're going to stick with the Star Trek thing, we could give, he could be John Quark Barker.
Yeah, that's true. Also, just as a note, that cost Josiah Jerome a class win.
Ooh.
He slipped behind 2 Division 3 drivers because that penalty, Jesse Hampton and Cristiano Pinheiro. So he drops from 1st to 3rd in the division. Dominant win by Mike Stopmill. Putting up a fastest lap of 2:04.6. The only man who could match that, I think, was Darcy Parkinson. Fantastic race all around, though, and there will undoubtedly be some penalties. Gentlemen, do you have anything you wish to add before we sign it off here and go to the ACC server?
Star Trek sucks.
I am offended, sir.
Valid sage wisdom from Byron Derksen. Please send your complaints to Byron Derksen.
Please tune in next week for the Ghost Recon Wildlands podcast, episode 2.
Tune in next week for action from Laguna Seca with the Zero Wednesday series. We've got the season finale of GT2 coming up at Silverstone and the 3rd round of the Academy Cup from Sepang with the South layout. Should be a good time. Anyways, till next time, I'm Mike, he's Byron, and our special guest Travis Wallace here today. We'll talk to you next time.
Nope, wrong.